Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. Thank you all for joining us today for our webinar on undergraduate admissions and financial aid at Ashoka. My name is Brinda Tandon, and I'm part of the Office of Outreach at Ashoka University. Joining me today are Marsha Prince, Director, Office of Admissions, and Jaiti Bhatia, Assistant Director, Office of Financial Aid at Ashoka University. Together, we will be addressing some of your queries on the Ashoka undergraduate admissions process and the fee waivers and the science scholarships available to students. Before we begin, I would like to inform our audiences that the deadline to apply in the final round of Ashoka's undergraduate program is 22nd of May 2024. You do not have to wait for your 12th board marks or CUET to apply. Now, without further ado, let's get started. I would request our audiences to kindly type any questions they might have in the Q&A box provided on their Zoom screen. We will address them towards the end of the session. Without further ado, Marsha, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Vinda. Good evening, everybody. So, as you probably know, this is the last deadline coming up, right? And for this cycle. So hopefully, if you have not applied till now, maybe that's why you're here and you're considering Ashoka. And so I just hope that this conversation that we have with you, this presentation that I have and Jayati has, as we talk about admissions and as we talk about financial aid, would just give you an understanding of what Ashoka academic program is going to be like, what the admissions process is, and if you do get an offer of admission, what sort of financial aid you can avail. So as I get into it, let me begin. I want to share my screen with all of you. And does that look okay?
Yes. Good
yeah. Okay. So as you know, Ashoka University is a residential program, right? So it's a liberal education program with a focus on natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities in a very diverse and multicultural space. So if you're looking forward to exploring, if you're looking forward to discovering your interests academically, discovering yourself, then Ashoka is a great place for you to consider. And I say this because if you had to look at what Ashoka offers, it is a very holistic and transformative educational experience, right? So very quickly, I'll just walk you through that. So we offer a 4-year BA or BSc honors, right? And you also have the possibility of having a research component in the 4th year. Of course, under the national education policy that has come up now, you also have the option to exit at 3 years, but essentially for our conversation, we can look at Ashoka as a 4-year undergraduate program, right? And what you get to do in this is you get to explore and design your own curriculum. You get to engage with various disciplines. You might come to Ashoka thinking that I want to do this, or I specifically want to get that degree. You will. Or you can also change your mind, right? So, and the reason I say that is because you really do get to experience a breadth of disciplines, subjects, courses. And so what you really get, a word that you will hear often is multidisciplinary education. So you won't just be, straitjacketed into one particular kind of course or only one discipline. You do get the opportunity to explore. Having said that, you also have you'll choose a major, you'll declare your major at the end of the 3rd semester, and you will focus on the courses toward your major, but you will also learn how different disciplines interact with each other, right? So if you want to learn computer science, you'll see how economics comes together with computer science, or how psychology plays a very important role in computer science, right? Or and the understanding of society might play a very important role in computer science, so on and so forth. And you'll see that no discipline can stand alone on its own, right? So this is the sort of education that Ashoka offers. And the reason I say it's holistic and transformative is because we focus on a number of things. Since it's also a residential program, you're not just going to class, attending doing your courses, and then going home, right? So what you will be taught in the Ashoka curriculum would be to think critically, and that's something that you may have been exposed to depending on what sort of academic experience you've had, or you may not be exposed to that. But the Ashoka education will make you think. It'll make you read. It'll make you question. It'll make you really understand. And also have your own voice, right? So critical thinking, academic reading, research, writing, communication allows you to engage with a lot of different texts across either disciplines or even within the same discipline, texts written by people who have gone ahead, right? Who have looked at various topics, and then to also come up with something that you think and your own voice, right? So that's a very important part of this process of learning at Ashoka. Another very important part is really collaboration. You can't do anything on your own, really, right? And that's how the world functions. Even if you're a very solo sort of individual person, you have to collaborate, whether it's family or whether it's peers, whether it's people in your community. So similarly, at a place like Ashoka, there's a lot of teamwork, group projects, peer learning. So you're constantly collaborating and learning. And hopefully that's going to develop you in a broader way and as a person, right? Both, intellectually, emotionally, and, just as a human being, right? The Ashoka education also is designed in such a way that you have opportunities to think innovatively and creatively and then problem solve, right? Your courses teach you to look around you, whether it's on campus or look around, things in our country, whether it's in technology or whether it's in society or whether it's in some ideology, right? To problem solve, right? So to innovate, to problem solve, and to also see what sort of impact you can have within society. So that's a very important part of the Ashoka education. And so teaching you to really understand what you really care about, right? And then, of course, finally, the fact that it's a residential program, you get to explore a range of extracurriculars, clubs, societies, your interests, your hobbies, learn new things, right? Make new friends, live in a community, share space, share food, and engage with others and make lifelong friends, right? So overall, we're hoping that if Ashoka is where you make it, then you would have a very holistic and transformative experience as a student. Okay, so moving on, having said this, the undergraduate program in a nutshell, like I said, it's a 4-year honors program, right? BA or BSc honors, and you have the opportunity in the if you're in the 4th year, if you come to the 4th year, you do the 4-year program, then you also have a research component that you can do if you want to, or you can continue to just do courses and not do the research aspect. But students who want to do their higher education might want to do the research component. Apart from that, your courses would have 9 foundation courses that are mandatory, that everybody has to do, and they're across disciplines. So everybody gets to experience a range of disciplines first. Then you've got courses toward your major that you have to do. Those are mandatory as well. And then you could choose to do a minor. So there will be courses toward your minor if you want to. If you don't want to do the minor, you can also have do a concentration. So that's a lesser number of courses as opposed to a minor, or you can pick some electives. You can do, and you have to do co-curricular courses, which are mandatory. And now with the national education policy, internships are also a mandatory aspect. So they are credited, they would be on your transcript. So this is in a very, very broad manner, the program that you would be experiencing within 4 years at Ashoka. So the admissions calendar actually was designed in a way to, and the admissions process is designed in a way to definitely find students who would thrive, who would succeed, who would do well in an Ashoka education, right? So if I had to look at the calendar, as you can see, if you have not yet applied, you've missed 3 deadlines. So 22nd November was our first deadline. Then we had 10th January, which was round 2. we had 12th April, which was round 3, and now we are at 22nd May. So this is the last opportunity. At the end of day of 22nd May, applications close, and that would be the last application possible for this admission cycle for the year, the classes that would commence on towards the end of August. I'm sorry, towards the end of August this year. So 22nd May is your application form submission deadline. On the 2nd of June, you have assessments, and then you'll know the decision by 10th July. So this is what you can expect in the calendar. So what exactly is going to happen in the admissions process, right? So what we do in the admissions process is within one admission cycle, like I said, we had 4 rounds. So the 4th round is happening now. So now is when you can submit for the 4th round. It's a repetitive process. So this is what has been happening in the other rounds as well. So if you have had friends who have applied in a previous round, you should talk to them and ask them what the process was like. But let me just elaborate a little bit for you, right? In stage 1 is where you fill in an application form. It's quite a comprehensive form. It'll take you 2 to 3 weeks. So you have pretty much just about that much time right now. So get started if you haven't already. So you submit your application form. You have mandatory Ashoka assessments that you have to do. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And then, of course, there's a very holistic evaluation of your application form and your assessments. And then you'll be shortlisted for an interview round. Some people may not be shortlisted, and so then the journey ends there. For those who are shortlisted for the interview round, it's a mandatory interview. They're all online. So your form is online, your assessments are online, your interviews are online, right? Once the interview is done, there's another holistic evaluation of candidates by the admissions committee. And then finally, the admissions committee will declare decisions. And if you do get an offer of admission, then you can apply for financial aid. Okay, so this is broadly what the process looks like. So just some general rules if you're looking to start an application, right? So and I'm going to just go through this, just point out, highlight a few things. If you've submitted an application form already in any of the previous rounds, then please don't submit another form. It won't be accepted because duplicate or plagiarized applications will be rejected. So they're not eligible. So please note, please do not submit another form. Use a personal email address, not a school email address or official institutional email address, right? Fill the application form by yourself. It's detailed, but it's not difficult. So it's very comprehensive. It asks a lot of information, but it's not very difficult, right? So if you go through the process, there are a lot of help boxes that you can look at. You'll know what's on the website as well. There's a lot of information about what makes a form ineligible or not eligible, what makes a form incomplete. So look at that, put down correct details, attach documents that are valid, right? And follow the instructions. I think a very important aspect of filling any application form is that you should follow instructions. I think if you do that, then 60% of your work is done, right? And then, of course, there's a little bit more that you need to do. Once you fill your form, get help with somebody that you trust. They can check and review your application, maybe read your essays, and give some pointers in which you can work on. And then please submit the application form. Once you submit the application form, you have to take the assessments. If you don't take the assessments, we can't take your application forward. So I've given you the dates for that, and so ensure that you do that. Okay. So in the application form, if you haven't looked at it yet, this is what you'll see. There's different components in the application form. There are personal and family details. There are school academics, standardized tests, non-academic engagements, so things that you do outside of academics. There's a question on reading interest. I'll elaborate a little bit more on each of these. So I'm just going through this list. Personal essays. So there are 2 essays in this form. A letter of recommendation, then some questions, some survey questions, then asking you what your intended major might be, what your course preferences might be, and then what sort of support you might need, okay? Some sections have attachments and some don't have attachments. Please ensure that you fill attachments, you upload the right documents, and you fill in the correct details. So to begin with, you may be wondering, why do we have so many, aspects? What do we really want to know? So, the admissions process works in such a way that every section of the application form is very meaningful, right? So imagine you have filled an application form and you submit it, and you don't know who's reading your application form, right? And I'm not going to tell you who's reading your application forms, but there are a bunch of very dedicated and highly trained people who are reading your application form, but they don't know you. So everything that you put in your application form is pretty much what they have about you, right? And because we want to know you, we look at details very closely. So your personal information or information about your family, things that we ask you about, they really give us an idea about you. And we're really interested in getting to know you. So which is why we ask you a lot of details, right? So there will be sections that may seem non-mandatory, that are non-mandatory, and you may skip it. But I would say that if it is relevant, don't skip it, right? It may not be mandatory, but if it's something that you can fill in, please fill it in. Be very thorough and detailed in your application form. The more information you give, the better it is for you. Which is why I said you need 2 to 3 weeks to fill in your application form, right? At least 10 days. So don't do it in the last 2 days. It's going to be very tough. You may not be able to get past all the sections. Okay, another important part is academic scores, right? So we take academic scores from class 10, 11th, and 12th. You may not have received your class 12 scores. That's okay. You can submit predicted scores. If you do receive your final scores before you submit your application form, then please push those. If you put your predicted scores and your finals, and you submit your form and your final scores come after that, we'll send you a link and we'll ask you to update your final scores on that, okay? So predicted scores are something that you fill yourself or your school counselor fills. There are details about that on the form, so you can look at that. You know, for IB and Cambridge, your counselor will fill the predicted scores, right? And I think you know that already. But please fill in the names and subjects and the scores correctly, just like how they are in your documents, so that there is no discrepancy, right? We check all these documents and we verify them. If you do have any standardized score, like an SAT, ACT, or a CUT score, they're not mandatory, but if you've got them, please submit them. As you know, you'll also have to take the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment for sure, right? And if you're a gap year student, please feel free to apply. I just want to say, if you're a student who's done 1 year elsewhere, right, and you are thinking of transferring into Ashoka, into the same major that you were doing somewhere else, then there's a different transfer application form for that. Please go on the Ashoka website and look at that. Please don't confuse this with the transfer application form. This is for fresh applicants, unless you don't want to transfer, but you just want to apply as a fresh applicant, even if you've done some academics elsewhere, okay? So just read up on the website. There's a lot of information about eligibility and what is required. So please read carefully and read closely. Okay, moving on very quickly, a section here that is very important for us is your non-academic engagements, right? This really helps us understand and see how you use your time, resources, and your energy outside of school, outside of your academics, right? So your academic scores helps and reveals academic rigor. Your non-academic engagements really shows us what are you interested in, what are your passions, right? And what have you been doing consistently? So you'll have to prioritize. You may be doing 20 things, but you have to prioritize and tell us 3. We only want to know the top 3. You can include personal interests, leadership positions, maybe competitive level activities, awards, hobbies, internships, community service, whatever you are really passionate about and whatever has added a lot of meaning to you and your engagement with it has really made sense for you, right? There are some instructions on collateral. So please select the top highest level of participation and attach those certificates, right? Don't attach resumes or don't attach, 8 certificates together, but do a maximum of 3 certificates in a PDF, and pick the top ones, right? Pick the top level of what you've done. Tell us, send us links, maybe photographs, anything that will really tell us about your interest and your participation, okay? So we'd really like to know that. We're also, because Ashoka focuses on reading, writing, academic research, we're also keen on knowing whether you're a reader, whether you like to read, and what you read. It does not have to be novels or books only. It could be anything, right? We just want to understand what sort of genre you read, and the range of it that you read and what you really enjoy. So you have an option for 3, but you can add 2 more. So if you're a reader, 5 is fantastic. So add them all, right? And don't just stick with the bare minimum, right? Tell us as much as you can. Okay. So coming to the section on personal essays, so this is a very important section for us, and there are 2 prompts. So they're both mandatory. The first one is 400 words. The second is 150 words. Very important part of the application process for us. So you can read these prompts. I'm not going to get into it, but essentially I'm just going to say that the first prompt, we want you to really think about it and write in such a way which tells us how you think, right? I know some of you are going to resort to like AI-based tools and ChatGPT and stuff, but please note that there are no wrong or right answers, right? We want to know what you think, what really matters to you. What are you concerned about? So don't worry if the writing is not very fantastic, or you're not using big words, or it's not, or the English is, or your vocabulary is not very great. Don't worry about any of that. What really matters is that you write it. You write your first draft. You think about it. You structure your response. It's 400 words, an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, right? What do you want to write about it? Make a little outline, write it and submit it. We really want to know what it is that matters to you. You can read the prompt for yourself. It's got multiple parts. Just look at it and address all parts of it. That would be very important for us, right? The second prompt is personal. It's not so much so about what you think necessarily, but it's really about us trying to get to know you. So if there's anything that you want to share with us that's of significant value to you, big, small, it doesn't matter, but something that matters to you in terms of your own personal life, your personal experiences, or a conversation, whatever it might be, please share that with us. I want to add that your application forms are confidential. So whatever you share with us will be confidential. And we will, at most, if you make it to the interview round, discuss it with you, right? Unless there is some aspect in which we need to help you with, or you need some sort of support for the future, should you make it to Ashoka. So this is a little bit about the essays. Please write them yourself. I want to say it again. Please write them yourself. There are no right or wrong answers. These are essays for us to get to know you. So whatever is the best way for us to get to know you, this would be very helpful if you wrote it yourself. I'm going to rush through this because just to save time, there's a letter of recommendation, which is not mandatory, but is highly recommended. So if you have somebody that you trust who's a teacher, a tutor, a mentor, counselor, supervisor, maybe someone you did an internship with, or somebody you worked under, or someone you were taught under, or a school counselor, or somebody who knows you well in either an academic or a professional capacity, then you can ask them. If they agree to write your letter of recommendation, please submit their details. I believe you need to submit their name, their email address, and a couple of other details about your relationship with them. And then they will submit it directly. So you need to follow up with them and ensure that they submit your letter of recommendation, okay? There's also a survey section. We ask you a little bit about your past association with Ashoka, how you heard about us, whether you've attended any of our other programs and such. And also we ask you to indicate your major preference for what you would want to major in. Please note that we ask you for 3 preferences. This may come up in the interview, right, if you get shortlisted for the interview, but we will not hold you to doing these majors, right? You're not forced to do only any of these majors. So you're not applying to a particular course. You're applying to Ashoka, and you're telling us what your interests might be, what you may want to major. But as you know, you only need to declare your major at Ashoka at the end of the 3rd semester. And you can change your mind from what you've put on the application form, okay? So we're not going to hold you to this, but this is very important at this stage for us to know what your interests are. This is a very important section of the application form, particularly because, in our country, specifically in India, sometimes we don't want to talk openly about what sort of support we might need. But please note that this section exists on the application form because we want to support you, right? We want to support you through the admissions process. We also want to support you at Ashoka, should you get an offer of admission, should you come to Ashoka, right? So you may require some sort of special attention, or you may have a special need, or you may have some challenges that require assistance. So whatever they might mean, there's a list here, you can look at it. Please put them down. If there are attachments necessary in some cases, please attach. Please tell us what sort of support you need. If it's additional time, if it's a scribe, and we will see what we need to do in order to support you during the admissions process and then thereafter, right? There's also a section that says there's a space given to express any sort of confidential information that might include circumstances or situations that have led to some sort of disadvantage, right? In particular, educational, social, or economic. If you're comfortable sharing that with us, please do, and we'll use that information to help you. Maybe discuss it in the interview, maybe see how we can support you. So we're very serious about this section, and so don't hesitate, don't hold yourself back. Tell us as much as you can about us, and this will just help us in our evaluation as well. So once you submit the application form, mandatory assessments are coming up. So there's an on-the-spot essay. You'll get 2 prompts. You have to pick one. You have 30 minutes, and then there's no word limit, but you need to write, right? Engage with the prompt. We want to see how you think, what's your ability to critique, to be able to understand, to comprehend, your clarity of thought, to be able to communicate your views. So the prompts are very generic, right? You could read it and understand it, think about it for a few minutes and write. We've tried to put a minimum word limit of 125 words. So you've got to write that, but the upper limit is however much you want to write. Then there's the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment. It's 40 questions, 90 minutes, multiple choice. They have both critical thinking, verbal questions, as well as mathematical questions. The mathematics that's used is still class 10th, right? So numerical and spatial reasoning is used for problem solving questions. And then, of course, your understanding of any argument or your general reasoning, logical reasoning for critical thinking prompts, right? So there are 40 of them and you'll get 90 minutes, okay? Moving on, if you've done with the assessments, you've submitted your application form, you've done the assessments, and there's a shortlisting process, and your application forms are read, evaluated, and then you might be shortlisted for the interview round. If you're not shortlisted, your journey will end there. But if you're shortlisted for the interview round, you will be sent an interview invite, you pick a slot, and you appear for an online interview. I just want to say the interview is mandatory, and it can be with a panel that has a single member or 2 members, but it is both personal and academic. It'll be a conversation out of your application form, okay? So don't fret, just be yourself. It's a conversation, it's an interaction, it's also an interview. So it's hopefully an opportunity for us to get to know you over and above your application and your other things that you have submitted to us. Okay. Finally, I just want to say, what are we really doing in this admissions process, right? So if I may say, we are evaluating candidates' fit and potential for Ashoka. So we are, through this process, we're trying to see if if the Ashoka education would be a good fit for you, if the Ashoka space would be a good fit for you, if you would be a good fit for the Ashoka education, if you would be a good fit for the Ashoka space, the residential program as well, right? So we're really gauging your curiosity, your academic rigor. We are hoping to gauge just your awareness of yourself, your self-awareness, your understanding of what is happening around in the world. We want to know your commitment. We want to know what drives you, what you're passionate about, right? What motivates you. And of course, we want to know how well you engage, right? With anything that you're interested in, whether it's a hobby or an interest or whether it's an academic subject. We're really looking to see how well you engage and how much you engage and what you really care about. Also to see, what your general attitude is to facing challenges, to looking at life, and to and how you've sort of developed yourself over the years. So yeah, as I close, I just want to quickly say that once all that is done, you will get a decision, right? You will hear from us. If you've gone through the whole process and the interview, there will be, you may get a firm offer of admission, or you may get a conditional offer, or you might be put on a wait list, or your decision might be deferred if we don't have your class 12 final scores. We may, if you already have that, then, you'll get a decision either way. Or in some cases, you might not get an offer of admission, right? So you might be denied admission. For those who get an offer of admission, you will be able to apply for financial aid. And so in just a minute or so, I'll have my colleagues speak about financial aid and about the science merit mean scholarship to you as well. But this would be the final stage, would be the decision that you get from us. And in essence, the process is designed in such a way that for us, because we want you to, we have a very holistic and transformative education program at Ashoka, and our process, our admissions process is holistic. What really matters for us is that we get to know you and your context. And to do any sort of holistic assessment, it's impossible if we don't understand your context and you. So we spend a lot of time in this process to understand your context, to understand you, right? And every application is evaluated within your unique context, right? And and if you have any sort of disadvantage, we also have a very strong focus on affirmative action. So we do our best from our side to ensure that we practice equity, that we are able to really handpick students who, we believe have the potential to really succeed at Ashoka. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to call on my colleague, Jyoti, who's going to talk a little bit about our financial aid processes and what happens if you get an offer of admission immediately after that. Yeah, Jyoti?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Marsha, for all the information on the admissions process. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Jayati Bhatia, and I work with the Office of Financial Aid at Ashoka University. So I'll walk you through the philosophy behind the need-based program which we have at Ashoka University. I'll tell you the process, how you can apply for financial aid, and the timelines for financial aid. So I'll just share my presentation now. Okay, so talking about the philosophy behind the need-based financial aid at Ashoka University, well, when we started this institute and the idea, it was supposed to be and currently is the largest collective philanthropy in education in India. In the last 10 or 12 years, we have about 180 plus donors who have come in together to pool in their personal resources. And they all have been aligned to a single vision and mission, which is that quality education should be accessible to all, and it should not be restricted on the basis of an individual's ability to pay. So what it is trying to do is it is trying to create a level playing field for anyone and everyone who wants to study at Ashoka. What we believe is that when a student gets selected to study at Ashoka, they all should have an equal chance to succeed academically at Ashoka because they have already been through a very rigorous and a holistic admissions process. And we believe that all of them should start at the same level. However, we do acknowledge that many of them may financially not be at the same level. They may not be able to afford the fee either in part or in full. So therefore, we have this program which actually looks at your ability to pay rather than your academic standing. It really tries to create that level playing field for students so that once they get selected, they all have an equal chance to study at Ashoka and their ability to pay does not become a hindrance in joining Ashoka. Now, if I talk about the impact of this need-based program, well, if I add up all the numbers and look at what we have been doing since the beginning, then almost 4,500 and plus students have been benefited from this program. They have either paid a part of the fees or did not pay any amount of fee. And talking about the resources that have been pulled in together, almost 510 crore rupees went into funding education for these students. Well, this is an amount which has been unheard of in our country, going only towards need-based financial aid. Therefore, if you look at any batch and any set of students who are currently studying at Ashoka across all the programs, nearly 50% of them are on some form of aid, which typically means that if a student applies for financial aid and if they qualify for financial aid, they can get a waiver of anywhere between a 25% on their tuition fee to a full waiver on all their costs, which will include your tuition, residence, and meals. So, which effectively means that you can get a waiver of anywhere between 2 lakhs to almost 11 lakhs per annum of your fees. Well, this is so therefore, what I want to say is that it's not a single or a binary yes or a no, that yes, you will get financial aid or no, you will not get financial aid. It is a gradient or a range. And in our experience, we have seen that anybody who qualifies for financial aid, they nearly get around 4 to 5 lakhs waiver per annum on their tuition fees. Now, talking about who can apply for financial aid, well, anybody can apply for financial aid. There is no limitation in applying, only a logistical step is involved, which is that you can only apply for financial aid once you receive a firm offer of admission. So, the time or the day when you receive your firm offer of admission, a link will be shared with you where you have to go to that link and you can then start applying for financial aid. Well, this application process is absolutely free of cost, so there is no cost involved in applying for financial aid, only a bit of your time is involved. I will now walk you through the main sections of the financial aid form. So we have 4 main sections in the financial aid form. The first is the personal and family details section. So this section mainly talks about details related to where you have lived, where do you study, your contact details, your parents' details, and your family members' details. The next main section is the earning members section and the business or professional details section. So this section asks for income details of your family members and business details if anyone in your family owns a business or a consultancy. The third main section is the wealth and expenses section. So this section requires you to provide all the assets and investment details of your family and all the fixed expenses that your family incurs in a particular financial year. The last section and the most important section is the comments section. So this is a mandatory section, and here is your opportunity to explain in detail that why your family requires financial aid. So you may feel right to mention all the details you feel we should know. And it's also useful for you to know that our assessment is completely based on whatever information you provide to us. So you should ensure that you provide to us an exhaustive information which will help us in assessing your financial aid in a fair manner. Now, talking about some of the important points you should keep in mind when you are applying to Ashoka University and then when you apply to financial aid. Firstly, on the screen, you can see these 2 email IDs, which is admissions@ashoka.edu.in, and the other email ID is financialaid@ashoka.edu.in. So please ensure that you add both these email addresses to your mailbox so that any communication which happens from these email addresses do not go into your spam folder. The next important point to keep in mind when you are applying for financial aid is that it's very, very important that you click on the submit button, before the deadline date. Usually your deadline date is in the evening at around 5 p.m. So ensure that your form is completed before that and you click on the submit button. As and when you click on the submit button, an acknowledgement mail will be shared with you. So then you can be rest assured that your form has been submitted. In case you do not receive that acknowledgement mail, you should write to us and check with us if your form has been submitted or not. And lastly, it is very important that you involve your parents or guardians while you are filling the financial aid form, because the form asks for a lot of financial details. And it is very important for you to provide all the information to us in an exhaustive and an accurate manner so that we can assess your application in a fair manner. Now, talking about the timelines that when you can apply for financial aid, well, for all round 4 students, your financial aid form will open on 10th of July 2024. So this is the same date when your decision notification for your admissions will also be shared. The same time your financial aid form will open, you will have a 5-day window to apply for financial aid and your form will close on 14th July 2024. So please ensure that you have all your documents ready and available with you so that in these 5-day windows, you just need to start submitting your application form and you're not in the process of procuring all the mandatory documents. Your decision notification for the financial aid decision will be shared by 28th of July. And by 2nd of August, you will be required to accept the offer. Now, I would also like to add that these dates are tentative and it will actually depend on the number of applications we receive. But for now, you can refer to these dates for all the round 4 applicants. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. Well, I would also like to add that during the process of filling the financial aid form, you may have a lot of questions about how to fill the form or very specific queries to your situation or how the income disclosures happen in your country. And we also understand that maybe some of you are not fully aware of how to upload the documents. So in such situations, we would very strongly urge you to reach out to us on the email ID, which has been shown here, which is financialaid@ashoka.edu.in. You must contact us before the deadline date and not wait for the deadline to get over. And we will ensure that we answer all your queries and assist you in completing the form in case you face any difficulties. Also, we would urge you to please go to our website, go to the financial aid page, and we have a sample financial aid form available over there. So please go through that sample financial aid form, see what all information is required, what mandatory documents are required, and you should start procuring them right now. And in case you have any questions when you're trying to procure the necessary documents, you can write to us and we can help you and assist you on how you can procure these documents. So this was all about financial aid. I will just take 2 minutes to talk about the Sciences Merit Cum Means Scholarship. So in the year of 2022, we have also started a Sciences Merit Cum Means Scholarship, which is for any student who is interested in pursuing a pure science or computer science. Pure science, which includes chemistry, physics, biology, computer science, and mathematics, are eligible to receive this scholarship. There are 2 criteria you need to ensure. One is the merit criteria, wherein you need to have your class 12th results above a certain percentage. So for students who are coming from a CBSE or an IB or a state board, their scores should be 98% and above in the best of 4 in class 12. For all Cambridge board students, their score should be A star, and A. And for IB board students, their score should be 41 out of 42 to qualify on the merit basis. And for means basis, you need to ensure that your family income should be less than 40 lakhs. And this is post-tax. So if you qualify these 2 criteria, then you will be eligible from our end to be shortlisted for this scholarship, wherein we will be sharing an Google form with you, and you need to fill in an SOP where you need to write that why you want to study that particular major at Ashoka, which will be followed by an interview with the particular faculty, wherein which subject you want to do your majors in. And then finally, the faculty will decide whether you qualify for the scholarship or not. So that is another procedure for students who are interested in pursuing sciences courses, that you have a merit scholarship available. So you can also apply for that, and apart from financial aid, you can also try to get a merit scholarship for any science course you want to do. So that's it from my side. Now I'll hand it over to Vrinda for the Q&A session.
Excellent. All right. So, okay. So we have quite a few questions here, guys. More than that, Moshe, thank you so much for answering a few of them as well. So Moshe has been kind enough to privately being answering questions that were not very relevant for this particular audience. So thank you so much for that. All right. So keeping that in mind, I think we're going to start with the most basic question which is asked, and I think Moshe, you can take this question. Does it reduce my chances of acceptance if I apply in round 4?
Well, you don't have a choice right now. So you only have round 4. If you had asked me this question in round 1, I would have said that I would have pushed you to apply in rounds 1 or 2. But since this is the only chance you got, it doesn't matter. Please know that our evaluation process is exactly the same. So we don't evaluate differently. Having said that, if we don't have any spaces available, but we think you deserve a chance to study at Ashoka, we will for sure put you on a wait list. And then we will see what we can do. But that's for later. I think you should just go ahead and apply, and then we'll see what happens.
Perfect. All right. And the next question is that I will get my board marks this month. Will that affect my chances?
I'm not sure how to answer that. We don't make any offers based on predicted scores, okay? We ask for predicted scores. We want to know your academic consistency from classes 10 onward. But you are not getting an offer based on predicted scores. Even if you wrote 100 in every subject, right? It shows us something about you. But in light of how you've done in class 10 and 11, but it's not going to get you an offer of admission, right? If you do get an offer still, there might be other reasons, but not that. So having said that, if you get your board scores before you submit your application form, or even after you submit your application form, we would still expect you to submit your board scores. It's just part of the process. So don't worry about it. It's not about affecting your chances or not. It just gives you an idea of how you've done. And regardless of how you've done, it is just one component out of many that we consider while your application is being evaluated, while your candidature is being evaluated. So it's not something that you need to be concerned about.
All right, thank you. So Jetty, you have, so there is actually an international student. So at the end, you actually covered a little bit about the international students as well. So there's one student who says that I'm a Nepali student. Can I still apply for the financial aid, and am I eligible for the scholarship as well?
Yes, so you can apply for financial aid. Financial aid is not restricted to anyone. Everybody who receives a firm offer of admission can apply for financial aid. And yes, you can also qualify for the Sciences Merit Scholarship. But please note that you do not apply for Merit Scholarship. We will shortlist you based on the criteria which we have mentioned. So there is no application process coming from your end. There will be first a shortlisting. And once you get shortlisted, then you need to apply for the same. So yes, but for financial aid, you can definitely apply. Yeah.
Nice. And just a follow-up question on that. I mean, does the financial aid extend from the first year to the last year, or is it only for the first year?
No, so financial aid once granted to you stays the same for the 4 years of your undergraduate program. Of course, we have an option in the incoming years wherein if there's a change in your family's financial circumstances that you can apply for a revision of financial aid. But whatever financial aid is granted to you for the first year will remain applicable for the all 4 years of your undergraduate program.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Mosha, coming back to you. A very, very important topic. So, letter of recommendation. You have covered it in your presentation. But let's just first of all start. Is it mandatory to submit a letter of recommendation with your application?
So it's not mandatory. Yeah. Okay, sorry, carry on.
Go ahead.
So it's not mandatory. Like I had mentioned, the letter of recommendation is not mandatory, but it's highly recommended, right? And in particular, from somebody that you've either studied under or you've worked under or done an internship under. I forgot to mention this in my presentation, but please don't get a recommender who's a family member, a sibling, an uncle and aunt. Those are not going to work, right? So we want your recommender to be somebody that you've either studied under, a teacher, for example, a school counselor possibly, or a tutor, a mentor, or somebody who you've worked with in a professional capacity, either in an internship or maybe in a job.
All right. And so Moshe has already covered it, so I'm just going to reiterate the process for the LOR. 30 seconds, guys. So basically what happens is you are not supposed to submit the LOR with your application. You're only supposed to give us the details of the recommender who's going to be recommending you. Please make sure that the email ID of that person is absolutely correct, because the only communication that we'll have with your recommender is via email, right? So if the email ID is absolutely correct, a link goes from our end to them, and they will get time to the 29th of May to submit your letter of recommendation, which is 7 days after the deadline, post which the link expires and they will not be able to submit it. That's number one. Secondly, like Masha said, it is not mandatory, but it's highly recommended. So even if you don't have a letter of recommendation, it's not a problem, and you don't need a letterhead for it. We keep getting this question that does it have to be on the school letterhead, because that will take a lot of time. You don't need it. Your recommender simply has to go on the link, open the link, copy and paste your recommendation letter, and that's it. That's all you need to do for the letter of recommendation, and your job there is done, right? Thanks, Masha. Now, a very interesting question, and I think even I was asked this question once. So I have given an SAT exam, and my SAT score isn't very high. So do you think, but is it still mandatory for me to sit for the aptitude assessment?
So you have to write the Ashoka aptitude assessment. And I know there are some questions on that as well. on, So let me just say the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment is mandatory. It doesn't matter what other assessments you've done, whether you've done the SAT or the ACT or the CUET. All that is fine. If you want to submit those scores, please go ahead and submit it if you have it. If you don't want to submit it, you think they're not very great, don't submit it. It's up to you. But if you want to submit it, please go ahead and submit it. It's another component we will look at. But primarily for us, we need you to do the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment and the on-the-spot essay. So both the things will happen on the same day. You'll have to do it. Let me just say very quickly, because I read a question on this, that if you want to study English or history or any of the humanities subjects where you think that mathematics may not be required, or you have not studied mathematics in class 11th and 12th, that's fine. You still have to attempt the entire aptitude assessment, right? The questions are logical. The questions are based on, and anything mathematical is only till class 10 mathematics, right? So even if you struggle with that, it's okay. There is no negative marking, right? So if you get a wrong answer, that's fine. You may get many other right answers, but please note that it's you will still have to attempt it. So there's no way around that. So both the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment and the on-the-spot essay.
Right. And the timelines for it is that 22nd of May, you will submit your application. 2nd of June, you will sit for an aptitude assessment. Now, 2nd of June happens to be a Sunday.
Yeah.
It will open at 10 o'clock in the morning. It will stay open till 4:30 in the evening. All you need to do is log in, give your assessment and come out. And the best part is that, okay, Musha, I'm sorry, but I'm answering one of your questions.
Sure.
But you'll also be given a mock link prior, 5 days or 6 days in advance. So you can actually attempt a mock assessment as well. So you know what is supposed to be done.
Or a demo assessment is what we call it. A demo link or demo assessment. Yeah.
Exactly. So you will be able to attempt that as well. So you don't have to worry about the assessment at all. Plus, it's just 40 questions in 90 minutes. So critical thinking, logical reasoning, that's all we request. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Jyoti, now, this is a very interesting question, actually. As an international applicant, does the financial aid cover my flight tickets, accommodation, reading material, and the monthly stipend, or what does it cover? Because I need to make a decision between two universities. I'm not kidding. This is a question.
Okay. So, see, as I have mentioned, that financial aid is totally dependent on your family's financial standing. And if you qualify, then yes, of course, you may get, a stipend to cover your basic expenses at Ashoka. You may get some stationery allowance. You get a laptop from the university. Flight tickets, we usually do not cover. So it will be really on a case-by-case basis, but flight tickets are not included in your financial aid package. So your flight tickets, your travel, you need to manage. However, once you come to Ashoka, then stipend, stationery allowance, laptops, and your basic medical allowance is being taken care by the university.
All right, perfect.
Can I just add something to that? Just so that our timelines are very clear and our process is very clear, you will have to get a firm offer of admission first for you to be able to even access the financial aid form, right? So there's no link that you can look for the financial aid form and access the form right now. If you do get a firm offer of admission, you'll get access to the form, and anybody and everybody can apply. Of course, there is a full assessment process, and then it will be decided as to what sort of financial aid you will receive, right? So I know we're discussing very students who are on like a full scholarship, full financial aid, right? But if you're not on that, then you won't even get some of the other components that have been mentioned just now. So please note, and sorry, Jyoti, I'm just repeating what you've said already, is that our financial aid is really based on what need you have and what you can afford, right? And we will bridge that gap. But if there's something that you can afford or you can take care of from your side, the expectation is that you invest as much as you can and your family invests really in your education, and then we support the rest.
Perfect. All right. So very quickly, Jyoti, this is another question for you. So I know the answer to this one, but what about the ISC curriculum? When I'm trying to apply for the scholarship, the Merit Cum Means scholarship, so first of all, they don't apply for the Merit Cum Means scholarship, guys. I think she said this already twice, but I'm still repeating it. you're not supposed to apply for the merit from means scholarship. But what is the qualification if I'm an ISC board student?
Okay, so for the qualification for an ISC board student is the same, that you need to score a 98% or above in your class 12 scores for you to be eligible for the Sciences Merit Scholarship process.
Exactly. All right. Now, Moshe, then I'm going to ask you a question that I've been asked about in the past few weeks. So, when a student is writing an application, what are the few things that they should actually keep in mind when they're filling up the application? Of course, you've given the nitty-gritties of it, you've given the details of it. But coming from somebody who's been doing this for a very long time, what are those few things that you think a child should actually think of while they're applying for, filling up an application for Shuka?
I think I'll answer that a little differently. I'll look at it as the application form, the assessments, the interview, all of it, right? Like, what are we essentially saying? We're saying that, like I said in my presentation as well, Ashoka's pedagogy, liberal arts and science pedagogy, and the methodology of teaching that happens within Ashoka is not like what happens in many schools, right? You don't have a lot of exams. You're not going to be your teacher is not, your professor is not going to come and give you a textbook and say, okay, learn this, or here are the notes. They're not necessarily going to only do lectures and then take exams at the end, right? Of course, some courses have exams, but you will be doing a lot of self-reading. You and the professor will read the same content. You'll come, you'll have a discussion. So if you're somebody who thinks that this is, okay, I'm going to just learn 2 days before the exam and then write an exam and then pass the exam, and that's how I'm going to graduate. That's not the system, right? So because that's what you're going to face at Ashoka inside campus is a lot of engagement with text, a lot of engagement with content, with people, with faculty members, discussion groups, projects, questions, putting your hand up in class, talking, class participation, which is a big part of your assessments. What I would like you to do if you're applying to Ashoka is from the time of the application form to put that sort of rigor into the application form, right? Look at the application form as a place where you can talk about yourself and really reveal yourself to a bunch of people you may never meet or never see, but who are reading everything that you put on the application form. So look at it that way. It's a really exciting process. I've had a lot of students I've interviewed say that, I learned so much about myself while filling the application form, right? So that means you have to fill it properly. And I would say some things for you to remember. Fill it completely. Fill sections that may not be mandatory as well. If you have something relevant to say, right? If it makes sense, if it's relevant, fill it. Be thorough, be detailed, double check, ensure that your content is correct. And in places where you have to write essays, where you have spaces to talk a little bit more, there are some very particular spaces, like under your class 12th, right? There's a space where you can talk about things that you've done academically outside of school. Think about the things that you've done. What have you learned? How have you learned those things? Maybe some courses you did, maybe some Olympiad you did, maybe you attended some, some program. And think about those things and put it down, because everything really adds value to why you want to come to Ashoka, right? And if you'll be a good fit at Ashoka. So definitely do that. I think the second thing I would say is fill your form by yourself. Nobody knows you better than yourself. So please don't give your form to someone else to fill. Don't pay somebody else to do it, right? Do it yourself. If you need help right at the end, get someone to look at it. And I would still say someone you trust, because that's the best way to do it. Someone you trust to read your essay, someone you trust to look at the content you've put on your form in different sections. Primarily these two, and don't wait for the last minute to submit your application form, right? Like, submit it at least one day ahead. Give yourself some breathing space, attempt it, take time, write your essays by yourself. The form has been very thoughtfully designed over years, many, many years. I would expect you to put in some thought while you fill this form, right? If you thoughtlessly fill a form that is very thoughtfully designed, it's not going to work in your favor. So I'd say just keep that at the back of your mind.
Also, let me tell you something, guys, because I've also been working in the system for a while. These people actually take out time to read your form from, cover to cover. One reader actually spends a lot of time understanding your application, understanding where your application is coming from, right? So please give them food for thought. And let's make their life a little difficult. That's all right. We don't mind that. Because
Yeah.
if we didn't mind that, the
Don't make
process
it too. Don't make it easy for us.
exactly. If we didn't mind that, we would have just stopped at one aspect.
Yeah.
But we are not. We're looking at everything about you. So just make sure that you give us information about you, because there's no other way for us to find out, right? Okay, so guys, there are a few questions that I'm going to answer very quickly, and I'm going to take these so that we can, because these are just one word or one line answers. All right. Very quickly, is everybody called in for the interview? No, only a few shortlisted students who get shortlisted on the basis of their application and both the aptitude assessments together. I'm sorry, the aptitude assessment and the on the spot essay together. They get shortlisted for the interview and they called in for the interview. How large is the class size and what is the faculty student ratio? We are looking at a ratio of 11:1. We're trying to bring it lower than that, but we're not really getting there. But 11:1 is the teacher student ratio at the moment. Okay, so Moshe, I'm going to answer the question, but I think you're going to find this very interesting. If I get accepted for fall 2024, is it possible that I extend my starting time to fall 2025 and save my seat for 2025 instead? Sorry, that's not. We don't take early admissions. If you get in 2024, you will have to start your class in 2024. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Another thing, very quickly, am I allowed to change my major in the second year? Absolutely, yes. You actually get time till your third semester, which is almost the middle of second year, to declare your major or your minor. Now, Jyoti, very quickly, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Will my grades in the first semester or the second semester affect my merit cum means scholarship? Will that get affected in case I'm not able to score well in my sciences?
Yes, right. So your merit cum means scholarship is dependent on your CGPA every semester. So you
Yeah.
need to maintain a CGPA of 3.5 and above every semester for your merit scholarship to continue. In case in a semester you're not able to maintain that CGPA, then your merit-based component will be removed. However, in the next semester, if you achieve the same CGPA, then it will be again added back. So yes, so it is dependent on your performance, on your merit at Ashoka.
Perfect. Moshe, now very important, and this is a very, very important question. So the window of the LOR, which is the letter of recommendation, is actually summer vacation for some schools, right? That is when they begin their summer vacations. A few of them are wondering that in case we're not able to get our LORs sorted before that and the recommender sorted before that, what do we do?
Well, you can send the link to your recommender now, and they can fill it now and submit it. You don't have to wait till May 22nd for them to send it and submit it, right? So you can notify them now with your application form and let them submit it. Because once during June, like towards the end of, say, May, when your school is on vacation and say your teachers or your counselors don't have access or are not going to be able to send your letters of recommendation, then we'll just have to forego it. So there's no way for us to accept it after that. So I would say be smart about it and do it now. Notify them and let them just submit it now for you. And you can continue and fill your form and submit your form eventually before the deadline.
Right. And just the last two questions now, and I'll quickly take these. So this is, one question is on placements after Ashoka, and the other question is on internships that the students can get while their time at Ashoka, and of course about higher studies after Ashoka. So we're just going to name two departments, and you guys can actually take your time to go on our website and look for these departments. One is called GESP, which is Global Education Strategic Placements. Number one. The other one is the Career Development Office. The Career Development Office is going to help you out with internships and placements after Ashoka. And we have been able to have 100% placement record for all those who opted for placement after graduating, and we've been very lucky that way. We have about 350 plus companies that have been coming into Ashoka for both internships and for placements. After that, in case you want to go for your higher studies, after Ashoka, in case you want to go for your higher studies, GESP will help you. GESP has actually been able to help students and support students into getting into their dream master's programs. So we've had students from across the globe coming back and telling us that we're your alumni. So we have students studying at Cambridge right now. We have students studying at Singapore. We have students studying in LSE for their masters and so on and so forth. And these are just a few names that I'm taking. Again, you can go on the website and search for these two departments and they'll be able to help you out.
I just want to add one thing here, Vrinda, very quickly. if you're looking at doing a study abroad program during your time at Ashoka, or going for a summer abroad or doing a semester exchange, the GESP also helps you with that. So you could be at Ashoka, but you could also experience a summer elsewhere or a semester elsewhere. So there are a lot of, there are different eligibility and criteria for that, but it's all there on the website. So Vinda's right, the GESP and the Career Development Office, the CDO, are the two pages that you can look at to understand, anything to do with education after, or educational placements or internships or, exchange programs.
All right. Excellent. So thank you so much, ladies, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed being part of our discussion on undergraduate admissions and financial aid. We would really appreciate if you could take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel in case you would like to share it with your friends, and do subscribe to the channel for more updates. Join us for our next webinar, Placement in Higher Studies at Ashoka University, on 10th May at 6 p.m. to solve your remaining queries regarding the application process. The link to register for the webinar is provided in the chat box. Before we end the session, I would once again like to inform our audiences that the deadline to apply in the final round of Ashoka's undergraduate program is 22nd of May 2024. I would encourage students to apply now without waiting for the 12th board marks or their CUET. For more information, you can write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or contact us on the numbers given on the screen. This brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much for joining us. Please take care and stay safe.